My middle daughter, who is now 12, she's dying. She knows that she's dying, and her sisters know that she's dying. And to hear your 12-year-old child plead with the universe, with God, to be here longer, it is gut-wrenching. She called her younger sister, who at that time was 8, and said, "Lena, I have to tell you something. I'm dying." And she said, "Soraya, I know. I've always known." I'm like, I realized that my busyness was a wonderful way to not feel. Yes, things have been pushed down. It's very isolating when you don't share. I am a mother of 3 daughters, and my middle daughter, who is now 12, when she was born, she soon had feeding difficulties. Around 5 months, she began losing weight. And we started about a 3-year odyssey of kind of looking for a cause of these feeding issues and her not being able to gain weight. And as we continued that journey, we realized there were other symptoms such as loss of milestones and just developmentally delayed. At that point, it was a journey of realizing that my daughter would have complex medical needs.
I miss you so much.
So much. I love you. Yes, me.
I'm a pediatrician, and my husband is also a physician. So we're very determined and hopeful to find a cause, given our medical backgrounds and our resources. However, that did not happen. Then, about 3 years ago, Soraya ended up having some decline where she got more fatigued. And it was found that she had some muscular involvement. She was what we call hypoventilating, where she wasn't breathing as well due to her chest wall muscles. And so, really, from the past 3 years to 2.5 years, we have entered a different journey, and that is one of physical decline, as well as acknowledgement that Soraya's life is life limiting. We do know that she's dying. She knows that she's dying, and her sisters know that she's dying. And it's a very unique journey, one that I have best termed to kind of explain this as anticipatory grief. However, while in this space with no timeline, you still have to live life. And so that is really what I'm trying to figure out, how to do that, but really in hopes that if I share my story, that it may be helping other people. And it's very isolating when you don't share. While my husband and I are both physicians, like most couples, we process very differently. My husband cries every night thinking about this. And I want to say that I don't allow myself, because I feel like we can't both be in that same space and have our house run. My husband likes to plan. And so there are days where he wants to sit and talk about her funeral. He wants to talk about what would we do with her room after she passes. I have had to say, I can't go there with you because it really gets me really emotional. It gets me thinking about things, and it makes it harder for me to sleep. And so, yes, things have been pushed down. It is so much pressure to feel like you are the one that keeps things going. I mean, just scheduling appointments alone, just like logistical tasks of getting kids to where they need to be and keeping up with everything. This is very recent that I am realizing, while I am constantly aware of how others are feeling, what they may need, I am not even aware of what I need. Like, I'm embarrassed to tell you I was sleeping like 4 hours a night in order to get it all done. And then I would compensate by caffeine and just keep going, just keep going. I also realized that my busyness was a wonderful way to not feel. I think that saying the word dying is still not necessarily comfortable, But what we are comfortable with is being uncomfortable. As Soraya was declining, this was one of the questions that my husband and I had. How will we tell her, and will we tell her? And I really wanted a guide. I really wanted a guide of how do we or do we not? And I will tell you that my husband and I disagreed. He really wanted to not tell her. He had this idea that if she knew, then she would perseverate on her death. It would cause her anxiety, it would make things worse. I felt very strongly about being honest. The one thing that the doctor told us is typically when kids are dying and have insight that their body is changing, they themselves will know. They themselves will ask. So the question for us doesn't change if we will tell her, if we won't. It will be more of, will you be honest with her? How will you tell her when she asks? Because she will ask. So there was a day where Soraya said, I want you to tell me the truth of what's happening to me. I think even then, my husband was hoping that we wouldn't have to say the word death. But as we were sharing with her what her body was doing, there was this pause of, she's like, does this mean I'm dying sooner? And I just said, yes. She howled and cried and said, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to lose you. And in that moment, my husband looked at me almost, I mean, in that time, I read it as like, I can't believe you told her. And then I was like, oh my gosh, should I do the right thing? And the next thing that she did was something I wasn't anticipating. She called her younger sister, who at that time was 8, and said, Lena, I have to tell you something. I'm dying. And Lena's eyes just like glazed over with wetness. And then she had just a couple of tears come down. And she said, Soraya, I know. I've always known. I'm like,
Would you like some more? Yeah. Okay, I will put some on your fork.
my older daughter copes with things very differently than my younger daughter. My oldest is feeling it, is talking about it. My youngest doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to think about it, tries to hold it all in. Soraya talks about it all the time. And I think that's hard. I think that's hard if you're the sibling that doesn't want to talk about it. So that has created some tension where Lena takes some space from Soraya because Soraya brings it up all the time. When she says these things, it's the worst. I mean, there is my own grief as a parent, but to hear your 12-year-old child plead with the universe, with God, to be here longer, it is gut-wrenching. When a parent sees their child in pain, for me, instinctively, you just want to fix it. You want to make them happy. You want the feeling to stop. And I think that has been the hardest thing for me to let go of, because she needs you to hear her. She needs you to acknowledge her. She doesn't need you to fix this, no matter how bad you want to fix this. There are moments where I just want it to stop. However, our go-to kinds of things are holding her, letting her cry, saying, I'm so sorry you're going through this, acknowledging that, for lack of a better word, this is unfair. There are times that we sob with her, and that's okay. I hate having her see me cry, but if it happens, it happens. Again, we're going to normalize crying. And I think that there are moments where we still question ourselves. Had we not told her? Had we made up something? But then it's, again, who are we talking about? It would lessen the suffering for us, but probably would not for Soraya, because she would know. She would know that we aren't telling her something, or she'll feel misled. And that is one thing that I don't want her to leave this earth feeling. I want her to know that she can be completely herself, and that we will be honest with her as age appropriate as we can. But I also want to be honest that just because we've had the conversation doesn't mean that it's still not challenging. In my mind, it was one big conversation. In reality, it's numerous conversations over time in small bits and pieces in the way that it comes up for kids. I do want to share, just for anybody that might be in the situation, there are guides on this that I found out after the fact, from an organization called the Conversation Project. The big shift with Soraya being in palliative care was also being a part of an organization called Make-A-Wish. With Make-A-Wish, Soraya dreamed of going to Hawaii and surfing. And at that time, as parents, we're like, there's no way we can travel with all of this equipment, all of our medication, and surfing, and so far away. And we were so nervous and anxious about doing this. And we really looked at her health as a limitation. Having that organization get us to Hawaii, take care of the logistics, and they made it happen. It was really an eye-opening experience as parents that we did something that we didn't think we could do. So maybe it's time for us to make things happen. We would start creating bucket lists. We started going on, trips. Right now, Soraya and I do one thing a day that is for self-care. So for her, it is makeup. And so putting mascara on for the day is what brings her joy. We also have somebody come do her nails at our house. Do I know any other 12-year-old that gets acrylic nails? No, but I don't know any other girl like Soraya, and that makes her happy. And so these are some ways that we have really small bits of joy. At the start of Soraya being in palliative care, as I started writing a book, and I'm excited to say that that book is being published and will be coming out September 16th, and it's called Keep Your Head Up. I intended to write it for others, but really it was very healing for myself. And so just hoping that everyone that's watching this will continue to follow our journey, because I'm not done learning. And so I just really hope to share whatever I learn with others to help them.